Welcome back. I'm Lois Saunders from ASCY, and I'm here in our ASCY Professional Resource Center to host the fourth session in our series, Surviving and Thriving COVID-19, with Dr. Jean Clinton as our special guest. Welcome back, Jean.
Hi, Lois. It's great to see you.
As you know, Dr. Clinton is clinical professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Neuroscience at McMaster in the Division of Child Psychiatry, and she's well known to all of us as an advocate for children's well-being and social emotional development. Jean has kind of committed her career to supporting children and aiming for the best kind of creative, happy, joyful minds that will last them a lifetime and contribute to their successes throughout life. It's great to be with you, Jean.
Ah, thank you. And I love that description of those creative, joyful, happy minds. Absolutely. That's my goal. That's our goal.
So I want to start by saying I really enjoyed the conversation you had with Paula in the third module. It really struck a chord with me when you were talking about resiliency and adaptability and mindsets. I'm really an optimist at heart, as you know. So I sometimes struggle with finding a balance, striking a balance between seeing the world through my rose-colored lenses and keeping it real. And I know sometimes in my work, I'm challenged by my colleagues, you know, well, what's the reality out here? So as we start to think about, and our leaders are starting to talk about the pathways to resuming our in-person connections with children, families, and coworkers, there's going to be some uncertainty and some anxiety. Can you start by giving us a bit of a refresher on resiliency and adaptability, and then to talk about the dispositions and mindsets that will be helpful to us as we move into this next phase?
All right, great. Well, you know, a couple of things come to mind. So when we're talking about resilience, we're talking about mindset, and I love what you talk about in terms of optimism that you have. You know, this mindset of being optimistic, rose-colored glasses, you call it. I think it's so very, very important as we think about building our children and our own ability to bounce back after these very, very challenging times. So let's talk first of all about the resiliency. So resiliency is, as we talked about with Paula in the last session, is about the ability to manage when something comes along and it's hard to deal with. How can you navigate your way to get what you need in order to do well? So this is Michael Unger's definition, being able to navigate, get what you need. So we need things like positive relationships. We need things like routine. We need things like a strong sense of identity and purpose. All of those things are resources that help us manage hard times. So resilience is about bouncing back after challenging times. Now, if you are a pessimist, then it's very difficult to be resilient because you're thinking, oh my, you know, nothing's ever going to be the same again. I have no predictability in my life. I don't know what's going to happen next. People who have that frame of mind have a far harder time bouncing back, because their brain and their attitude is hugely affecting what is possible. And what we know from the brain science is we each of us temperamentally have different ways of dealing with uncertainty and unpredictability. The brain, on average, likes things to be predictable. The brain on average likes routine. So when we're thinking then about being optimistic and about resilience, we need to know that structure and routine, the brain likes, and it's good to build in terms of resilience. So the mindset really has to be one that you know yourself. So I've talked about pessimism. And if you know that you tend to have more of a negativity bias, that you see things as half empty rather than half full, the joy that we're learning about changing your mindset to having a growth mindset is absolutely fabulous to read. Talking about the work of Carol Dweck, that you can quite literally change your brain by changing your mind, thinking differently and thinking about being more flexible. So as our kids are returning, you're wondering about, one of the things that's key is we want our kids and our teachers, our educators to be resilient. We want them to be optimistic. And that means we also need them to be flexible and to have ideas in mind about what do I hope for the kids. Not that we get back into a structured, routined program and get things back to normal, but rather that we meet each individual child where they are. So that's a bit of a long-winded answer to what came to mind with your question, Lois. Did that make sense?
Yes, it did make sense. And it brings me to a next question, because I'm wondering about the ability for people to develop, acquire new habits of mind or mind skills, and what that means for parents and educators in coaching and supporting their own children through dealing with change and uncertainty. Are the mindsets something that we can learn and coach in children?
Oh, such a great question. And the answer is an absolute yes, not only in children, but also in adults. We know from the work of many scientists, and it was first brought out to the public in a mainstream kind of way by Norman Deutsch when he wrote the book, The Brain That Changes Itself. But what we know is that we can change our brain. We can change, and that means we can change the neurons, which are our major brain cells. We can change how they connect up to other areas, parts of the brain. We know we can do this through reflective practice, through mindful meditation, through learning to control the things that we can control. What interferes with new learning and new habits of mind is very often fear. So when that fear center in our brain, the limbic system or the red brain that Stuart Shanker talks so much about, when that is activated, then we can't change habits of mind. We can't change, we can't learn. So in order to be able to change your mind, to change your brain, you have to have that reflective stance of, what am I feeling now? What story am I telling about my feeling? When I think in a certain way, where does that come from? Why is it important to me? What is it that I need? And so as we do that examination, which is crucial as we return to a different kind of normal, we absolutely can see that the brain can change. What are some of the drivers to wanting to change? Absolutely relationship and connection. We want to see the best that the kids can be and the best that we as educators can be. And so that relatedness to others and the drive to be more open to the understanding of others is absolutely key for it.
Great, Jean. A couple of questions come to mind. I'm going to start with one about a fear or an anxiety that's been voiced to us in our professional learning sessions, our virtual professional learning sessions. So one of the current concerns we've been hearing is a fear or prediction that when programs resume, the educators are going to be faced with a lot of separation anxiety, because children have been home in the family nest for so many weeks. So when they're thinking about individual children and maybe children who have really worked hard to develop their pro-social behaviors, and they're wondering what that's all going to look like on re-entry. So the separation anxiety, the excitement, is there going to be regression? Are they going to have lots of challenges? So what insight or advice can you offer, first of all, about the separation piece that will be helpful to frame people's thinking as we move forward?
Well, so what I have to say is yes. Yes, 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 yes. All of those things are absolutely, absolutely possible. We've never seen this before. We've no idea how little ones are going to respond. So I think, you know, as I said earlier, chance favors the prepared mind, and joy favors the prepared mind. So I think for our educators to be as prepared for all of those eventualities and possibilities is absolutely essential. So what does that mean? It means, again, back to our mindset conversation, Lois, and it means that people have to be open to having an uncertain path for kids. I have suggested that you don't bring kids back in droves, but rather you do it slowly. Think about the kids who are going to need, that you know already from your experience with them before, that may need a bit more time to warm up. You know, each child's temperament is very, very different. So sit as a team and think about who are the kids coming back and what are their individual needs, and how can you create the safety, the safe harbor that we talked about earlier for each and every child. So don't worry about programming. Don't worry about following a rigid routine. Certainly have routine and predictability, but not rigid, and be able to follow the child's lead as it starts. Believe in the foundations of how does learning happen. That when you're focusing on creating that sense of belonging, focusing on having the little ones express themselves and have the well, all of those four, the well-being, all of those foundational principles make so much sense as kids are coming back. Does that make sense to you, Lois? I have such great admiration for your experience as well.
Yeah, I want to share with you some of the conversations that we've been having with educators and supervisors in our virtual professional learning communities. We've asked them what they miss most about their programs. What are they missing most? And then in reflective dialogue have made connections to how does learning happen. So when we open that conversation, what invariably comes up is their connections, their relationships, and they talk about missing the ability to be with children every day foremost, but also with each other. And in reflecting on that, they talked about having um, a new awareness of what belonging feels like. So they've been, a number of the organizations are meeting as teams through Zoom meetings or Skype meetings, and they've noted that they just feel part of something bigger when they come together as a team. They come out of their isolation, they feel a real sense of belonging and connection, and so that's something that they can start to think about. How can they create that and carry that value back to their programs? Another comment that stuck with me from one of the supervisors, she said that in reflecting with her team around their ability to come together, they said it's made a difference in how they think about engagement, because although Zoom and Skype and virtual connections are great, they're well aware that it's not like the real thing. It's not like being present in the same space and collaborating on a project or working hands-on in that way. So for this supervisor, she said it's that foundation. We have a real new understanding about what it means to be meaningfully engaged and present with our children and families.
Wow, that's really fantastic, Lois. You know, it makes me think about my friend Stephen de Groot, who talks about the core four. That when you experience meaning and meaningful work and meaning in your life, when your needs, values, goals, and strengths are in alignment, And as you're describing what the supervisors are talking about, it seems to me that they're not focusing and saying, how are my needs doing? How are my values? How are my goals? But inherent in the story you just told is a coalescing of those four, isn't it? And that is giving people meaning. And, you know, wouldn't it be just a fantastic gift of these challenging times if more people were able to get in touch with their meaning, of that sense, the need for belonging and authentic belonging, authentic connection, well-being, authentic experiences, and experience real meaning. That would be something. And, you know, I think ASCY, and through these things that we're doing, these, we maybe lead the conversation for more people to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, as I think about moving forward, and I mean, it's only logical that there is going to be rigorous attention to sanitary practices and health and hygiene practices, and that's critically important as well. And people will have concerns about that, and we'll be relying on our local public health department to bring forward the information, and we'll be prepared. And I think we can be confident in that regard. But there's also this, I believe, a sense of excitement, a true excitement about being able to reconnect and be together again. And that makes me hopeful. And if we can start to think about the intentionality around bringing our four foundations to life in our programs, you know, things like, I know in one of our sessions, Sue mentioned the gathering time, but really appreciating that this gathering time is not just about who's here and who's not here in the attendance, but it's a time to be a part of something together. And there'll be things to celebrate. Children have been home for a long time. I have a little granddaughter, and she's independently toilet training now, and that wasn't happening before. Other are sleeping in a big girl bed or a big boy bed, or might have learned to zipper up their jacket. And those are things that they can celebrate with their peers, and just spending time to enjoy that. And I think about the kinds of activities that we're really accustomed to as early childhood educators, but we will have a more meaningful and intentional approach to them. Projects, for example, that take a number of children to complete. So making a nice big box construction that can be a painted train, and then being able to get on board that train with everybody in their cardboard boxes and sing down by the station and other train trip songs, things like that, that it happens because we are doing it together. We're all part of it, and we all contribute.
Right. The intentionality that you're describing, I think, is the key. And, you know, I loved our conversation with Paula as we talked about nothing without joy. Nothing without joy. And so what I'm hearing in your reflection here, or your conversation, is the reflective practice that we have an opportunity here to really shake it up and say, what is the important thing in the work that I do? So the circle time example is perfect. Do you just do check-in, or do you actually create that sense of community and family with and amongst the children and the teacher? I love it. I love it, Lois. You're filling me with so much hope as we move forward. It's wonderful. Thank you for that.
Something that else that's come to mind is educators sharing their and reflecting on a shift in their rapport with parents after they've had virtual connections. At first they said, oh, we missed the daily informal kind of chats with parents at arrival and pickup time. But they're seeing this shift and a new rapport developing with many of the programs are doing virtual, like online connections and activities and experiences with children. And so the child relies on the parent engagement in order to be ready to take part, to have the iPad and logged into the blog or the media page or Zoom or whatever they're using, and be ready. I've seen some great examples of things like Crazy Hair Day, Dance Party Day, and parents are a part of that. So educators are also hearing back from parents about how much they love that, how they really needed that in their day, and how fun that was. And I so appreciate you're doing this, because sometimes it's voluntary. Many times it's voluntary, that the educators are just doing that to stay connected. So they're seeing that they have a different kind of rapport than they had before. And that's something to be hopeful and enthusiastic about as we go back into our programs. We're doing some reading at ASCY on From Teaching to Thinking by Ann Pello and Margie Carter. And she talks about the alliances with parents, seeing parents as allies, that you need each other to be really effective in your work. So, and everybody has something to contribute.
Wow, you know, how can we, just as we're finishing up here, Lois, how can we capture the changes that people are experiencing, recognizing now that childcare is in fact an essential service, recognizing that parents, teachers, and kids are all capable and competent and allies. And you know, parents are finding out that looking after little children is a heck of a lot harder, and it's way more than babysitting. So wouldn't it be fabulous if we saw a revolution in terms of understanding about the importance of early years and the importance of looking after children as a village, that it takes us all? Absolutely wonderful and exciting.
I'm just wondering if you have any words for our membership, our community, and for others about what do you hope for? What is your hope for children as they resume their daily experiences in schools and early childhood settings, and why?
Yeah, well, I think we've covered it. I think that the hope I have is that through this trying time, that children come out of it stronger, better, having a sense of identity, a sense of hope for their futures. That parents will come out of this, come through this, and educators with more of a deep respect for each other, and a wavelength, simpatico, where they appreciate what has happened. I have to say I worry about an increase in anxiety, but I think that we're going to be seeing a revolution in terms of education, seeing well-being and learning about social and emotional development as key. And so I'm very hopeful that we will see a significant shift. I'm so excited to be part of the wave of change, and I think it's people like you and the work that you do at ASCY that's going to be in the early years world, going to be leaders at the very front edge of this. So that's my hope.
Oh, thanks so much, Jean. And it gives me something to plant some food for thought with our participants who are taking part. As you reflect on this discussion today, and Jean provoked us to think about a next step of thinking about what we know about individual children and being prepared and thinking about what their experience might be like, and being ready for that and prepared to set them up for success. So that might be a takeaway. I have other takeaways, and I'm sure our participants do as well. If there's anything you'd like to ask further questions about, and no doubt, as you think about individual children, individual questions will come up, and resources to explore. So we look forward to connecting again, Jean, on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. for our Q&A session, and connecting with all our participants. And for now, I want to thank you so much for your time and for this fabulous conversation, and we'll see you later this week.
Terrific. Thank you, Lois.